Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome to Big 12 Insiders. This is Big B's thoughts after another crazy day within the Big 12 Conference. Some unexpected victories, a win streak that continued to go 17 years, which is insane. But there was just a lot of good stuff within the Big 12 Conference. And actually, if we're being honest, chaos. We are setting ourselves up for some real chaos, which I love chaos, crazy chaos for the entire month of November. We're going to break some of that down for you today. So before we get started, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comment section, and always hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. So first off, November of chaos, it's can be here, people. I think it's here. We have 5 teams that are currently ranked in the AP top 25. BYU, number 10, still disrespect. We just can't get in the top 10. The Big 12 can't get a team in the damn top 10, even though we're undefeated. It's just unbelievable, but it is what it is. Texas Tech at 13, Cincinnati at 17, Houston at 22, and Utah back in the rankings at number 24. After that, I don't even know if you'd call that a throttling, a dismantling. I don't even know what you would call what they did to Colorado. Destruction. I don't know. That was ugly. But that's where we currently sit. 5 teams ranked in the top 25. And this is what I believe the rest of the season, because 2 teams are not out of this thing in the Big 12, or 2 lost teams, I should say. I apologize. 2 lost teams are not out of this thing in the Big 12 right now. As we know, last year, both teams that were in the Big 12 title game, they both had 2 losses, within the conference. So I think it's a strong possibility that might happen again. I know BYU and Cincinnati fans would probably disagree, but at least one of them is going to have a loss because they play each other, So cannibalization of the conference, like we've all talked about, has started to happen. But the month of November, it gets even more dicey. Let's break it down for you. So at the top of the rankings, BYU is 5-0. Here's who they have left: Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati, or at Cincinnati. So it's at Tech, TCU, at Cincinnati, and UCF. 3 tough games. Now, BYU fans will say, well, all of these are winnable games. I don't think there's anybody that I'm going to name can't win every single game that's left on their schedule. So let's make that very clear as of right now. But that's still a tough schedule. And as I mentioned, you play Cincinnati. So somebody's going to lose, obviously. So we're not going to have 2 undefeated conference teams going to the Big 12 title. So that's where it is with BYU. But they handle their business, they'll be in. Cincinnati, on the other hand, they have at Utah, Arizona, BYU, at TCU. Again, tough, and might be the toughest remaining schedule of the teams that I'm going to name. But yeah, at Utah, Arizona, BYU, at TCU, that's difficult. That's difficult, moving forward. Then you go to the 1-loss team, Texas Tech. Texas Tech at Kansas State, BYU, UCF, at West Virginia. In my opinion, that's the easiest of the teams that are left. I take that back. There's another team that I'm about to mention that might be easier. But the game at Kansas State, all of a sudden now, maybe Kansas State has found their stride on what everybody thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. I don't know. It's a couple of weeks. They've played really good football over the last several weeks. Maybe this is a tougher game in Manhattan than what we anticipate. I'm not sure it will be, but who knows? Who knows? Again, chaos, people. Chaos. Houston, they've got West Virginia at UCF, TCU, and at Baylor. It appears that might be the easiest one of everybody left. But again, it's still chaos. But that appears, if you're just looking from the outside looking in, that would be maybe the easiest, but not a cakewalk. I don't want to come off on acting like it's a cakewalk. Oh man, that's a simple. It might be the easiest left, but the remaining schedules that I'm going to go through, they're all slobber knockers. I mean, so there are no just, if you're going to make it to the Big 12 title game, you didn't back in. So again, I want to apologize if anybody, or maybe if I came off and thinking that somebody had an easy schedule. It might be easier than the rest, but it is by no means easy. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Then you go to Houston, or I already went to Houston. Then we have Utah, and these are the 2 lost teams. Utah, Cincinnati, at Baylor, Kansas State, at KU. Difficult. Difficult. But here's the thing. Well, no, we'll cover that here in a minute. Then we got Arizona State, Iowa State, or at Iowa State, West Virginia, at Colorado, Arizona. Now that might be the easiest one left. That one is probably the easiest one left. And again, not a cakewalk, but that's probably the easiest one. Kansas State, Tech, at Oklahoma State, at Utah, Colorado. Difficult. Tech and at Utah. Ooh, brutal. TCU, Iowa State, at BYU, at Houston, Cincinnati. Might be the toughest one. And if TCU makes it, yeah. I mean, whew. Iowa State, at BYU, at Houston, then Cincinnati? Yeah. TCU gets to the Big 12 title game. First of all, they're going to need some help. But yeah, that schedule. Now, here's where the super chaotic part of this comes into play. As I mentioned, and I'll just go from the bottom up, TCU. Well, the problem with TCU, you look at their schedule, yeah, they beat all these teams. Those teams are in front of them except for Iowa State. The other teams are in front of them. But who else is also in front of them is the teams they lost to, Arizona State and Kansas State. So they're going to need a lot of help to be able to make it. Not only do they have to go undefeated and win out, they also have to hope that those two lose another football game because they can't have the same record because they're going to own the tiebreaker over them. I think TCU's odds of making it are probably the most difficult of anybody, especially when you consider their schedule and who's in front of them that they have lost to. Those 2 losses are to teams that are currently in front of them or tied with them. Then you go to Kansas State. Their 2 losses, it actually works out for them because it's to Iowa State, who is now behind them, and Arizona, who is behind them. So there's no tiebreakers that are in the way of Kansas State. Those teams are, even though they won, they're behind them in the conference standings. Now, you look at their schedule, again, you got Tech and you got to go to Utah. The chances of them winning out are slim, but it's not impossible. And of all the teams, they kind of own their own destiny or control their own destiny because, again, the tiebreakers work out in their favor because if they beat Tech, well, they'll have the same record with the tiebreaker going to them with head-to-head. Same thing with Utah. Now, Utah, obviously, if they beat Utah, then Utah will have another loss. So Kansas State, technically, I don't know if it controls its own destiny to get to the Big 12, but it owns its own destiny as far as the tiebreakers are concerned because the teams that they have lost to are not a factor in this race at this particular point. So that's an advantage, Kansas State. You look to Arizona State. Their 2 losses are to Utah, who they're tied with, and Houston. Going to be tough for Arizona State. They're going to need a lot of help because, again, Houston's ahead of them, and Utah is tied with them, which basically makes them a game ahead. So you're going to need both of those teams. Now, again, all this can happen. They still have to win out, but all of this stuff can happen. But they need a lot of help. Of the teams that I have mentioned so far, they need the most help because of who they have lost to. Same thing goes for Utah. Utah 3-2 in the conference, but they lost to Tech and they lost to BYU. So they're going to need a ton of help. Again, they got to win out. Schedule's not easy by any means, but that's the issue is that the teams, I mean, BYU is basically 3 games ahead of them because they own the tiebreaker and they haven't lost in the conference. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen because chaos, but you basically need BYU almost to lose out to be able to beat them, to catch them. So, and I understand it's 2 games. I mean, you're going to need them to lose 3 games, 3 of 4, and you win out for you to just catch them. And that's tough. Or I guess not catch them, to pass them, but that's tough. Tech, on the other hand, the same thing. You're going to need them to lose twice, down the stretch here for you to be able to pass them. Houston's in actually a really good spot because they don't play Tech. Obviously, they've already played Tech and they lost to them, but their schedule, West Virginia, UCF, TCU, and Baylor, I mean, they're in a good spot. If they went out, Houston is going to be in this thing, people. I'm just, if they went out, I think Houston is the team that's going to, and again, the tiebreakers in the Big 12 are so nuts, but if they went out, I got a feeling they're going to be in. That's just my feeling. You look at Tech's one loss is to Arizona State. If the tiebreakers are based off of, and again, it could very well be the teams that are behind them and who they lost to. Well, Arizona State has 2 losses. It might be 3 or 4 by the time this thing is over with. If they base it on that, Tech's, it could be trouble. It could be trouble because again, they play BYU, and so they have an opportunity there, but they got to win out because if they don't win out, it gets dicey. Cincinnati, same thing. Now, they don't have any losses, but we just went over their schedule. Utah, Arizona, BYU, TCU, 2 of those on the road. It's going to be tough for the Bearcats. BYU, same thing. At Tech, TCU, at Cincinnati, and then UCF. So some of these teams control their own destiny. I think Houston, Tech, and K-State actually, now obviously BYU and Cincinnati over everybody, because if they win out, obviously one of them has to play or has to lose because they play each other. But there's still some teams that control their own destiny that have some losses just because of who they lost to. Does it make any sense? No. Is it chaotic? Yes. But let's just see what happens next week, because we got some games next week that I think are going to decide or maybe be a segue into how chaotic November is going to be. I think that is really the case in point. I think next week, for the Big 12 conference anyway, is going to decide as far as what's going to happen in November. And again, things can change, but you just go down the list. BYU goes to Iowa State. Now, we just saw, or excuse me, they just went to Iowa State and won. That was last week. So we just saw some stuff happen this week that changed, but Arizona State going to Iowa State. Arizona State is still in it. They got to win. Tech going to Kansas State. Kansas State is still in it. They got to win, But the big one for me, Cincinnati going to Utah. You got to win it. You got to win. Cincinnati has an opportunity. Utah's back has been against the wall a couple of times, but because teams have lost, Utah has stayed in it, and I'm excited. I'm just excited. This last month, I think, is going to be super chaotic. And I like that. I like that because it's ultra competitive. I don't care what everybody else says about the conference. I think it's ultra competitive. I really do. And we're going to see what happens down the stretch here. Teams are going to get challenged. I'm for it. And we saw some good football yesterday on Saturday, though, didn't we? Didn't we see some good football? I know there were some games that got lopsided. I totally understand. But there was some good football within the Big 12 on Saturday, man. 5 ranked teams. couldn't be more proud of the conference up to this point. Let's see what we can do down the stretch here, because I think it's going to be wild. I think it's going to be wild, and it's going to be a tough physical race to the finish. That's what I believe. Just a really tough physical race over this last month to see exactly what happens, people. So that's all I got for you. I appreciate you guys, man. We'll have our recap tomorrow on Monday, but until then, I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.